Hey, what's up, Internet? It's time for Act 6 of our little totem leveling guide here. As I mentioned in the past videos, if this is the first one you've stumbled upon, this is definitely not any kind of like racing guide or any kind of super fast leveling guide or anything like that. It's more for newer players. It's more like a let's play. We're going to hit every quest and sort of talk about all the small gearing decisions we make along the way. It's just kind of a chill example of how to level with totems for folks that are not very familiar either with the game or just leveling with a build like totems or Hierophant. Now, where we left off, we were actually doing pretty okay because we had hit our resist goals before we even killed Kitava. We're a little light on life. I'd like to be closer to around 2,000 life here at this point, and that's just because we've had mediocre luck on some of our life rolls. We still have these really bad gloves because we just haven't stopped to fix those. A lot of our gear has low life rolls. We've had to craft life on some of this stuff. This is probably our best life item, and this one has a little bit. So we'd like to get maybe like a... It should be easy to replace this belt. It's only carrying a little bit of our lightning res. And obviously, you know, our glove slot is a pretty free upgrade at this point. Other than that, we're pretty much just making sure our resists stay where they're at and looking for weapon upgrades. Anytime we can upgrade our weapon right now, it's going to be good. And now these are not actually linked, right? We don't care about these being linked, so maybe we'll grab something like these gloves here and see if we get an upgrade. We can go ahead and slap some armor scraps on those. We'll just use this. And no luck, really. But they're better than what these are, right? Word of the Grave is totally pointless. I'd rather have the life and mana here. So I'm actually just going to switch these anyway. And this has an open suffix, so I can throw, you know, resist on here if it'll make it easier to swap my belt out or something. It's always good to keep track of like what items have open suffixes for crafting resists onto. Otherwise, we're in a position where we can pretty much just crush this act, I think. So first we're going to head off here to the west to the Twilight strand. And this is just a really simple like kill all the enemies. And what this is going to do after a couple quests is going to open up a vendor in the Act 6 town. And this vendor, unlike the library in Act 3, will actually sell all the gems. So if there's any gems that you still don't have yet, or like if you haven't set up your cast win damage taken or anything, you can buy them from Lily here in Act 6. We don't really need any more gems for the rest of the story though. We're pretty much set. We just want to go ahead and knock out all the quests anyway. You never know when we're going to need gems. The other thing about the vendor in Act 6 that's different from the other vendors is that they're always level 1 gems. The other vendors, like if you get a gem as a quest reward, and so if I go back to like Act 1 right now and buy any of the gems from Nessa that she could have given me as a quest reward, those are going to level all the way up to a maximum level 15. So the longer I wait to go back, the higher level those are going to be. Whereas with you know, with Lily, they're just always going to be level 1. Now the mission here is just to kill all the enemies, so not much to it. You just have to make sure that you don't miss, like along the north wall sometimes you'll see like a cove, especially right here, right by where you come in, which is why I checked up here. Sometimes this cove, like this, is up here, and it like sneaks way back, and you'll miss like an entire pack of enemies, and have to like go all the way back for them. So make sure to check that when you first walk in. This is probably our last enemy here. Dexterity boots really not going to do anything for us. This is also the first act where you can start doing heist stuff. So these rogue markers, if we go over here to talk to, like we did pick them up, right? Usually it tells you to talk to what's her face. Anyway, we come back to Lily, and she'll give you 2 respect points. Those will actually be useful later, not just for if you need to fix your tree for something, but when you do switch over to freezing pulse totems, there's a big grip of changes you have to make that I go over in the guide. We won't be needing to do that because we're not going to actually switch to freezing pulse totems in this video series, but whenever you're ready to do that, you're going to need a bunch of respecs, so it's kind of nice to do the respec quests while you're leveling and just have those. So we've got a cold res essence and a lightning damage to spells. This could actually make us a decent wand upgrade. This could also get tossed onto a wand or like a belt or something. I really would like to have a belt upgrade. I'm mostly just lacking life right now. This currently has lightning res. Fire and cold res and no life. So that didn't help us. Does he have a wand we could chuck this onto? He's got a blue, green. I don't actually have any transmutes though. These are pretty bad wands. I don't know why I'm still carrying these. No, I think we'll just move on for now. So once we head off here, we are essentially repeating. Now, if you know, this is probably obvious to most people, but the way the sort of flow of the story works is that Act 6 through 10 is just a repeat sort of Acts 1 through 5. So we're going to be repeating all of the same zones, but we've sort of come back to Rayclast after we got kicked out of Oriath, right? So we tried to save the world and failed, and Kitava took over Oriath. And now we've got a retrek from where we started. And so we're actually going to be doing a lot of the same zones. We got to go back and do where we first went to the medicine chest in Act 1. We have to go back there and kill a completely different enemy, but we're basically doing the same thing. It's Bestel's manuscript, but it used to be the medicine chest. And a lot of the zones kind of work this way. Now, this zone is these guys here. This is why I mentioned you want to have your resist sorted out, because these guys actually can do some pretty noticeable burst damage in cold. Like it's cold fizz, and if your cold res is lacking, you will know, because even with capped res, you'll sometimes take a surprising amount of burst damage. So if you're sitting at like 50 to 60 cold res, you'll feel like these guys might be a little overpowered. But for the most part, you want to just stay moving. It's not terrible if you've got like 50 cold res, as long as you don't sit in one spot. Just summon your totems and keep moving. And like I said, just like in Act 1, we're going to come down here to the tidal island and make a pit stop to pick up something for Bestel. Let's come up here and get Firewalker, because I'd just like to get some more damage. And just like in Act 1, it's sort of, there's no way to tell which is the more optimal way to go, left or right here, because the island is just a big ring. So just pick a direction and hope you pick the right one. Looks like this here. So little named monster here. Grab the manuscript. We'll level up our steel skin. Let's not skip this essence though. Essences are just very, very handy for leveling. This guy's got a shell, so he's gonna die twice. Now, Essence of Greed should be max life. Yeah, so that's a pretty good find. We'll toss that onto something that currently does not have life. Even throwing this on glove would be a decent choice, or tossing it onto a ring maybe. But I'm kind of eager to replace the gloves and the belt the most right now. Turning this in, we get an option for basically a jewelry slot. Because I'm lower on life, I don't really care as much about the fizz damage. And my amulet's like okay. I still have an open prefix here if I want to put mana. So let's keep pulling belts. This one is also terrible, so that's not going to help. We can double check on some gloves that might be useful. He apparently doesn't have much to offer there. I'm going to be keeping an eye out for wands. I wish that was not magic. Yeah, we can go ahead and ignore this stuff for now then. So now that we've gotten the manuscript, we're going to head back over to the mud flats, which looks a little bit different since we were last here. And instead of finding shells, the submerged passage is now blocked off forever. And we are looking for Nessa, basically the old vendor from Act 1 that sold us gems. And you see the burst damage you can take here. Of course, I'm fighting 4 yellow monsters on top of these guys, so they're getting a lot of auras, but you can definitely take some burst damage if you're not paying attention in this place. And you're basically heading over to the east wall, and then you head north. You will eventually find either the entrance. So we found the entrance to the next zone. You can't go through here yet because you're looking for the missing eye. So you find the east wall and go north. If you don't find the thing you're looking for, you can follow it south until you find... There's a named mob here somewhere. This is a physical aura monster, which is only going to make that ice shot even deadlier. This is who we're looking for. The Dishonored Queen. Likes to walk away from you, but just follow her around. And now once you kill her, you can come up here and find Nessa, who is now a mermaid. Why? I don't know, dude. Lore. Now we're only missing one beast here. It would be nice to find that before I move on. Mainly so that I can make sure I can put bleed removal on another life flask when I eventually get like a divine life flask towards the end of the campaign. I personally like having bleed removal on my flask. It's not necessary to have it there. You can sort of move your things around. But that's typically where I put it for my character. Anyway, we didn't get the last piece, but we did get the eye. So we can head over to the Karoy fortress, where we're going to get our first pantheon power. Now this zone is actually... there's like a lake in the middle of this zone that runs all the way up to the north, and it doesn't matter, like you come across the lake right away, it makes no difference which side you go to. You can go left or right. The boss of the zone is actually in the middle, and the door to the boss room is on both sides of the lake. So it literally doesn't matter which way you go. You're just gonna follow the lake shore here until you find this door. You can drop a portal to be safe, and inside here is our first pantheon god. And just like most of our other boss fights, our goal is going to be to run in a circle while our totems kill things. And once he hits this life threshold, he puts a barrier up, and you have to kill these other totems that these beams are connected to. Otherwise, that barrier will protect him forever. But as long as you just run in a circle, he's still not going to be able to keep up with you. You can kind of flame dash around that beam in the center. And while he's draining that guy, you can come up here, and there's a crafting recipe here that I miss a lot when I league start. Don't forget to grab that. And once you talk to him, it will unlock your Pantheon page. Now, you can go ahead and select Soul of Tukohama for now. Typically, towards the end of things, like once you have everything unlocked, and we will unlock all the Pantheon powers in the video series. I usually take Rislotha for my minor and Brine King for my major. But for now, we can just take Tukohama because it's our only choice. We do have some gloves here. Yeah. And then we leave the same way we came in, and we just keep following the lake here until we find the exit on the north side. I probably don't need to have this mana flask that I'm carrying right now. But, oh wait, box had an ice nova. That's another thing I would say to try to make a habit of. Anytime you click a box, I would say you just want to assume that you need a Quicksilver flask with freeze removal or whatever. I just hit my freeze removal flask whenever I open a box. But what I'm always looking at that card for, the item card, is Ice Nova. Because Ice Nova on a strong box like that, once you get into mapping content and really high-end mapping content, tier 16 Ice Nova boxes do incredible damage, and they are much wider. So they're honestly one of the more dangerous things in mapping for this build. We'll take our Firewalker point. But just get used to looking, whenever you're opening a strong box, that's what you're actually looking for. Is it cast Ice Nova? If so, you should probably just blink away. And we got a little Zoomer Shrine. This is basically the Ledge 2.0. It's called the Ridge now. And we're just going to zoom our way up back to the prison where we killed Brutus the first time. But we're basically approaching the prison from the other side, right? We're essentially going to enter it from like the roof. Because the roof now has a big hole in it. There's nothing else interesting going on here on the ridge. There's no trials yet. The first trial we're going to find actually is in the prison, just like it was on the way there. I sometimes do loot these superior gem drops while I'm leveling. Even if it doesn't matter like what gem it is really. When you vendor superior gems, if the total quality of all the gems is 40%, the vendor will give you back a GCP. So it's sort of a way to like get a few early GCPs if you pick up every superior gem you find in the campaign. Usually you'll get like 1 or 2 GCPs worth. Not much to the pathing here in the ridge. There's a couple of turns, but most of these turns wind up connecting back to each other. And so the general rule of we're trying to go, you know, in the opposite direction of the way we came in is still kind of applying. We're kind of just trying to go west here because we entered on the east side. Make sure we grab this essence. Essences are pretty cool. Oh, we got 2 of them. And then we got minion life. And I have a little belt here. So what would be the best thing to chuck on this belt, probably? Yeah, we can try the life one. Now, am I crazy? I'm pretty sure that was our life one. Wasn't it a minimum? Oh, the belt wasn't maximum life. I promise I've been playing this game for a long time. Jewelry was not maximum life. That was only armor. Oh well. Doesn't really matter. So we come into the prison here. And the layout is actually not all that different. This is where you're going to start finding delirium, by the way. In this build, you could probably hit most of the deliriums on the way. If you head back to town, though, right when you get here, you can go ahead and get your skill point. Every god that you kill that awards a pantheon point will award you a skill point with whoever it turns into. So you're going to start getting skill points a little bit easier in the second half of the story than you do in the first half. Now, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and grab the life because I'm a little bit short on life. Once I cross like 2,000, I'm going to start. This is where we're going to start investing into mana. So that by the time I get to the end of Act 7 and I'm ready to do my second labyrinth, I can go ahead and take Mind Over Matter. And, you know, my mana won't be a total blow up. I want to have at least, you know, at this amount of life, assuming I had, let's say, like 2,200 or, you know, somewhere between 2,000 and 2,200 life, I want to have at least, you know, 1,000 mana unreserved, right? Which is going to take probably like 2,000 mana total to do that, as long as I'm running Clarity and Herald of Ash, and I'm not going to turn those off while I'm playing Holy Flame Totem. This is probably a decent gamble. As is this. Oh, I don't have any more transmutes. I don't even know if I had a transmute for the first one. Oh, this is just a spell damage. Nice. Let's try that. Spell damage, lightning damage to spells, and crit chance to spells. That probably is at the point where it's going to beat out our crummy crafted wand, eh? And we can just use our tooltip to find out for sure. We're at like 29, 21, 31, 36. That's a slight upgrade. Not surprising. We should check attack speed. I usually like to add an augment to make sure that I'm not giving up the opportunity to roll like a +1 to fire skills wand. Because if we had flat damage and +1 to fire skills, we would be in good shape. Let's go ahead and gamble on another belt too. Or two, because we've got a lot of... So what is belts? Minions? What about... We'll try one more. Yeah, no luck on those. We're just kind of treating essences as like cheap alchemy orbs right now. We can also use this on a wand if we find another decent wand target. This I'd probably throw on a pair of like gloves. But I don't have any transmutes at the moment. So let's carry on. I'm not going to actually hold on to that for this story, but I probably would at least start. So, the prison. The prison has a lab trial. And it has the exit to the tower. And we'll go ahead and hit the delirium. It kind of... I wouldn't stress too hard about hitting like high reward tiers if you come across these initial deliriums, but they're really not that hard. And this is also where, like I mentioned before, where the heist content starts in Act 6. A lot of people don't like heist. It's totally optional. There's no like anything. There's nothing super important that you like have to do heist for. I kind of enjoy it, but a lot of people don't. So feel free to skip the heist stuff. Delirium though is a little bit harder to rationalize skipping because you can do it while you're leveling, and it just sort of increases the amount of loot and experience you're gonna get while you're leveling. So, you know, unless it's too hard, I usually just do it. We'll take the boots because I wouldn't mind getting an upgrade on boots. And we're not super concerned if the timer runs out. I don't care too much about how rewarding the early deliriums are. Like, we got a bunch of opportunities for some stuff and a large cluster that's no good. Like the first half, we are mainly looking for the book icon on our minimap to tell us where our trial is. It might be on the other side of the exit. Yeah. So this is the first trial of the second half. Let's grab the life and mana node. This is another one of these alternating spike puzzles, so you can just wait. We're just going to teleport over here. With this one, you kind of just want to follow the spike pattern to avoid it. And then you've got another alternating spike pattern, but you can just teleport over there. And again, it doesn't really matter too much if you get hit by the spikes here. You should have 3 charges for your flasks. But if you just wait on this one, follow them around. There's a crafting recipe here that you don't want to skip. You don't want to have to come back and find a lab trial to get a crafting recipe. And just like the other one, we're going to teleport right up on here. Click this. There's only 3... Ooh, I didn't see that. There's only 3 lab trials, by the way, for your second lab. So that's one of them down. We're going to find... I think that's the only one in this act, actually. And then there's 2 in Act 7, if I'm not mistaken. And this is Chevron's tower. This zone is a lot like the Vault Pyramid, where we're just going up in levels within the same zone. And so, unlike the pyramid, you know, it's just shaped like a tower, right? So the zones, each floor doesn't actually get smaller. Each floor is basically the same size. But since we've already found our trial, our only goal here is to get to the top. Now at the end of this tower is the boss, which is both Chevron and Brutus. She's basically experimenting on Brutus's corpse, and you're gonna fight Brutus and then Chevron possessing Brutus's body, basically. So there's a lot of physical damage from Brutus, like there was before, but there's also a lot of lightning damage from Chevron, especially in the third phase where she's combining his physical power with her lightning magic, right? So try not to have too low lightning resist when you get to this point in Act 6. You don't want to wind up taking crazy damage from Chevron's attacks here. I'm going to grab some scrolls. This is the boss here. You can always drop a portal for safety. So when you find her experimenting, she hides in this invulnerable bubble. So the only thing you can do is fight Brutus at first, who has a new grapple hook and a new slam that goes the whole distance. And while you're fighting him, she'll sometimes shoot things. And then, for some reason, she switches him into the invulnerable thing, and she comes out to fight you. And I don't know, drop some books or whatever, but we do so much damage, that phase does not last very long. And now, it's basically just the same Brutus fight, but with extra lightning damage. But as usual, dropping your totems, keeping them cursed. You can add flame wall to that. Things are pretty easy. This is actually not worth a pantheon point or anything. This is just part of the main story. And then you open the door down here. There is a crafting recipe right here that I often forget about on the way out. And this puts us back on the Prisoner's Gate, which you probably recognize from Act 1. We can go back to Tarkley here and pick up our reward, which I believe is a 4-socket helm. Like a 4-link helm. Yeah. I usually take armor, energy shield. At this point in the campaign, especially for Holy Flame Totem, you're mostly looking for either 2 red, 2 blue, or 3 blue, 1 red. So the armor ES stuff tends to be the easiest to recolor when you have so few chromes at least start. That is a pretty awful helmet. We didn't identify that pile of stuff from our deliriums. We'll do that now. A 56 life belt that has no resists. Could add resists. What do we get over here? That's terrible. This is life mana, but lower values. I need life. Spell damage, but not much. That's not very useful. That's pretty bad. 10% movement speed. I think we have 20% movement speed boots, so those can go. I don't really want a cloth belt either, so we'll just take all of our currency. I'm also going to toss these rogue, heist contracts. I'd probably stash those, or I'd just go do them at least. I kind of like heist, but I'm not going to carry that stuff around for the leveling series. Now I'm starting to get a fair amount of still got 2 essences, and now I've got 2 alchemy orbs. And because I could definitely use weapon upgrades, I'm going to continue. Well, I can't buy an orb of transmute right now. I don't have any transmutes left. We would have to. We could spend some portal scrolls to make that legal. Go ahead and buy a wand. Here, let's buy 2 wands. Why don't we use our alchemy orbs on those? Well, this was actually going to be... Let's use one of our lightning damage dispels. So that turned out to have cold damage. That's pretty bad. What about... Let's use an alchemy orb. Cold damage dispels... Fizz damage. If that had been spell damage, that would have been okay. Yeah, I'm not into it. So we could also... This is a 2 wisdom scroll. What do we try for? Yeah, that is completely filled up with affixes, so that's no good. Not having amazing luck on our currency, unfortunately. But that is how it goes sometimes. There is one more. But I think we'll just go on. We don't really need any more sockets. Like, you know, we could be trying to get 4-link boots. For example, we could try to fit in a vol skill. We would like to get increased duration into a couple of these links. Like, eventually I'd like my flammability on a 4-link to get increased duration so that I can increase the mana cost of flammability for the purpose of Arcane Surge. Speaking of which, we have a 63 mana cost, so we might as well go ahead and start leveling Arcane Surge a little bit. I still want my Arcane Surge to go off in 1 flammability cast, but we have plenty of room for that right now. But I would like, eventually, you know, as I start approaching maps and thinking about stuff like that, we definitely want to have a 4-link for our flammability, and then maybe a vol skill with increased duration, for something like vol haste or vol righteous fire. But we don't need those right now. We definitely don't need those to get through story. Now we do want to hit a couple of the side quests here in the Prisoner's Gate. We'll pop the Delirium just for kicks, and this is going to take, we still have plenty of room on Arcane Surge. It's going to level really fast because we left it at level 2. Go ahead and, where's that shrine at? Give me that. Level up Arcane Surge some more. Now, in this place, you'd actually follow the road if you just want to get out of the zone. If you just want to progress the main story towards the Brine King, you just follow the road. But if you take the side passage, kind of like how we had to progress in Act 1 when we first came through here, to get to the ship graveyard, there is one of the pantheon gods here called Abrath. And this is also where you find Nessa, who is a mermaid, and she's not happy that she's a mermaid. It's not like it's our fault. I'm actually going to go ahead and level up the reward tier on Delirium a little bit higher, and I'm going to go ahead and end it. Because I don't really want to have Delirium active when I go in to fight the Abrath boss. Nothing super interesting here. We could see. We'd have to link this if it was any good, so it's not like a great thing. Now, like I mentioned, this is about the point where I'm going to want to start thinking about leveling up my mana, because I want to start preparing for Mind Over Matter. And one of the best nodes to get early on for mana is Prodigal Perfection, because this has increased spell damage and then more spell damage per maximum mana. So of all the mana nodes we can get early on, this is one of the only ones that's going to give us damage. And I want this whole wheel. I'm going to wind up taking Mystic Bulwark too, but I'm going to head over here to Prodigal Perfection first. So we can just follow the wall here. In the same place you find Nessa. Hey, some 4-links. Same spot we find Nessa, we'll find that door, and this is going to take us to Abrath, who is like a 2-phase fight. He's going to drop down right about there. He'll summon some ads and run after us in a big circle. But after he hits a certain amount of health, he's going to hop out of the arena after he drops some meteors on me. There he goes. And then you run down to the bottom here, and then you want to run through this area as fast as possible, because it's going to drop a bunch of goats on you, and a bunch of meteors fill the cavern, or the valley. So just run through it, and then fight him again. He always, well, usually anyway, tries to summon meteors at the start of the second phase, but this time he just wanted to run after us. There's the meteors. Those hit from like this side of the arena like the southeast, and they head to the northwest. So try not to just stand in the path of those. They do a lot of damage. Now Abrath is going to give us a different minor pantheon power. This one is 5% reduced fire damage taken while moving, and then unaffected by burning ground. I usually switch this only because we're never stationary in this build, right? There's no purpose for us to be stationary. We're not doing any self-casting anymore except for flammability. So we're always moving. So this just never really does anything for us. So you can switch it out for now. Eventually, and really soon, we're going to get Rislotha, which is the one that I would probably leave it on once we get it. It'll allow us to build life flask charges without killing enemies. And then later on, once we get better geared, it's actually even better because it has a bonus for being on low life, which we do build for. Anyway, make your way back to the road and follow the road over to the western forest, where this is where a Lyra was, right? The Lyra and the spider. They're long dead now. But the shape of the zone hasn't really changed, right? Now the only thing that's here is a waypoint and a crafting recipe. And the way you find the crafting recipe is just like trying to find Nessa, or not Nessa, a Lyra back in Act 2 or 3. So we find that torch on the side of the road. So we know that the waypoint is on this side of the road too, by the way. We're just coming from the opposite end. And we can follow this little cobblestone road into the forest, and it will lead us to Alira's camp. Now, Alira is long dead, and we can, assume that she died to her own magic because it's still full of zombies and stuff. But there is a crafting recipe here. It's basically the only thing in this zone. Once you find it, you can make your way back to the road, and then follow the road out. Grab the smuggler's cache for no reason, I suppose. I won't be doing that during this. There's our waypoint. Yeah, we can continue. We can probably level that once or twice more at this level. We won't want to take it any further than that until we get flammability onto a 4 link. Because the mana cost is not going to change. So, we hit the Riverways. Now we're going to stick to the road still. And the shape of this zone is also pretty similar to the way it was back in Act 3. I suppose we can grab this shrine. Find the waypoint. And across the waypoint are these 2 little posts. And this is where we would have found Oak. But again, Oak, long dead. Right? I don't know how long dead, but he's definitely dead. And he's not here anymore. And neither is his hut, I think. Maybe it is. But it doesn't matter because the only thing we're here for is this other pantheon god, the puppet mistress. And the easiest way to do that is that when you find, like, you come in at like the southeast side of this zone, follow the southern wall and follow it west. And then as long as you keep following the wall, this is where the old waypoint was, and this is the old vault temple entrance, which is now long closed off. But we continue following this wall, killing these obnoxiously camouflaged little bugs. These things do surprising damage, by the way. The poison damage, because you're not going to have much chaos resistance here, is going to really hurt. I'm not going to let them do too much, but it's easy to get caught off guard by how much damage those can do. So here in the spawning grounds, to make the puppet mistress spawn, we have to kill these nests. So we've got one here, one down at the bottom, and then one on the right. And that's going to make the puppet mistress spawn up here. And shocking development, we're going to put our totems down and our flame wall and our flammability. And we're going to follow her where she moves to. And we're going to run in a circle. And she's going to die. This is going to give us a skill point. We actually got a skill point from both Abrath and Puppet Mistress. We just haven't gone back and turned them in yet. We're going to go ahead and talk to Sin here so that we can switch our Pantheon over to Rislotha. This basically makes it so that you gain life flask charges if you haven't pressed your life flask within the past 4 seconds. So after you press it, there's like a 4-second timer. As long as you don't press it again, it'll just start building up charges on its own. Like currently it's got 28 charges. Now it's got 31. Now it's got 34, right? So it's going to refill itself basically, which is a little bit handy in boss fights, because a lot of the boss fights, they don't have any adds or anything for you to kill. But as long as you're not mashing on your life flask and you hit it every once in a while, you might get an extra use or two out of it in boss fights. We'll go back to town, turn in both of these optional quests, and we'll get 2 books of skill for that. And that will help us get to Prodigal Perfection much quicker. Probably want to use an essence on these boots since they are 4-link. Dexterity, yeah, sure. Oh, those are really bad. Don't really have, we do have an Orb of Binding. This is, I'm not sure actually how we got this Orb of Binding, come to think of it, because I thought it was a Harbinger currency. But basically, these allow us to create, it's like an alchemy orb combined with an automatic 4-link. So whatever the socket orientation is, it will turn it into a 4-link item. So we don't want to use this on like a ring or a belt or something that doesn't have sockets. We would want to use this on gloves or boots probably. But no great targets, I would say. We could also use it on a chest piece if we wanted to try and gamble on a chest upgrade. That might be the way we do that. But for now, until we find a better base, we're just going to go ahead and keep going. Because we really, like I said, we don't need much gear support from here on out. I could probably finish the campaign in this gear, if we're being honest. I don't think I'd want to. I'd definitely like to fix up a couple of these pieces, but it's doable. But anyway, you come back to the waypoint here in the Riverways, and we're going to follow the road. Like I said, most of Path of Exile's campaign is either following a wall or following a road. In this case, we're following the road, which is going to take us into, what, the northern forest? You'd think I would know the answer to that question. You will get ambushed by a named trio here pretty quickly. There they are. The animal pack. They're not too much trouble. But around the time you find them, you're going to come across, see these like broken wagons and stuff. There's a town on the other side here, but it's been blocked off. And if you try to force your way there, there's a lot of traps. You can almost see them here. They're like kind of transparent, but they go off, right? So you can't actually get in town that way. So when you find that blocked off area, you just follow the coast here, this little cliffside, and it will lead you into the southern forest. Northern, southern. What's the difference? And we are going to follow this wall here for a while, like this river. We're actually going to follow this river a ways because we're going to turn back north here. I guess we could kill this red beast, but a lot of the times the red beasts are kind of not worth it at low level. They're really tanky compared to just about anything else. They have like act boss health almost. Go ahead and get rid of him though. There is a random named ape. As you can see, he didn't have anywhere near as much health, right? But we're going to continue to follow this river. We're not going to veer off too far. Because this is going to turn across a little log here very shortly. And this is where we're headed. Let's level up everything. Like I said, I continue to level my clarity, even though, like I said, I'm building up mana for mind over matter, but I'm going to start building mana faster than clarity is going to try and reserve it. Like, this is going to give me a nice chunk of mana already, but it's also going to give me some decent damage, because it's going to start scaling my damage based on how much mana I have. It's got a fairly low cap, so it's not like something we can scale indefinitely or turns mana into a great damage scaling option. But early on like this, it's a nice damage boost. So now we're going to follow the cliff south here. And you can see like we're pretty much on level. And we're not really having to stop too much to fight anything. We just drop totems and kind of keep moving for the most part. So we have to click the flag chest and take this flag with us. Don't forget to do that. We do need this to progress. We'll hit the delirium mirror on the way out here. This is one of those annoying. This was sort of the Merveil's Caverns layout, right? We're heading back to try to find the beach. And somewhere in here there is a crab boss. It's actually not mandatory, and it's pretty easy to skip the crab boss on accident. But we're vaguely going to be trying to head, east here because we came in on the west. See an essence here. Let's go grab that. You want to be a little bit careful whenever you've got delirium up. It does make rares, a fair bit tankier and more dangerous. Take that orb of fusing. Cast Ice Nova. So you don't want to be standing next to that guy. And there is our exit. So like I said, we skipped the crab boss. It's pretty easy to skip that crab guy. I'm not going to go back and find him. There is also, if you really want, or you don't have it yet, there is a hideout to unlock. There's basically like two routes, like two major routes in here. When you don't go vaguely, in the opposite direction of the entrance, if I had gone up here, it's probably where it was this time. Or maybe it's down here. But you'll know because you'll get that icon on the mini-map where, I don't know what you call that, that icon. Like weird blue symbol. I don't really see anything too interesting here, so we'll go on to the beacon. Grab the waypoint, and I'm pretty sure the layout for the beacon is the same every time, if I'm not mistaken. We're getting a bunch of deliriums. We'll go ahead and take care of those on the way. Now we're pretty much always trying to go northeast in the beacon area. Heading up the beach. For the most part, you can follow the wall here, like the southern wall. What level was that? 6. Okay. One quick way you can check to make sure that your steel skin is like not over leveled, you can try to switch your skill to steel skin, and now it says the skill can't be used. That's because it's currently linked to cast when damage taken. But if you level it too far, it would actually let me cast that manually, right? If that's the case, that means that cast when damage taken is not high enough level to trigger it, and you would want to stop leveling steel skin to let cast when damage taken catch up. So we found our way out here. There's a lot of annoying guys here. 2 stone ring, ruby ring. Sure. Now there is a crafting recipe that's pretty easy to miss when you first come up here. I'm actually just going to turn this off so I can see. Once you find these pillars, there is a fixed layout to this area up here. At the top of these stairs is a little statue. Comes to life, and there's a crafting recipe at the base of that statue's feet. And now up here, we have basically 2 of these labyrinth things where you have to stand inside the yellow circle. And these are like fuel tanks. and we have to stay inside the circle to move them up into the beacon's fire thingamajig. So basically, just stand next to this thing and drop totems as you walk, and they will take care of everything. Sometimes these statues come to life. They'll pretty much die before they get to do anything, though. You have to stay with this a little bit longer than you'd think to make sure it goes all the way in this little cage. Once the circle disappears, you know it's done. And then you cross over. We have to put both of the fuel tanks in there so we can actually light this thing. So let's go over and get the other one. I don't mind finding rare belts right now. That's probably one of our worst gear pieces, so I wouldn't mind finding an upgrade to that. Also wouldn't mind finding better wands too. Gloves, belt, and wands are pretty much our current goal targets. So that gets locked in there, you hit the switch, and then this is why we take the flag. We throw the flag into the beacon, which burns it and summons the boat. There's a little trick here where you could walk all the way down there if you want, but if you have Flame Dash, right about here, you can actually teleport. If you spam the button, you'll figure it out. You can teleport from up there down to this little corner. And then we can sail off to the Brine King's Reef and the very end of this act. So he tells you to go kill the Brine King, find Nessa. We're going to take Mystic Bulwark just for the mana and the mana regen. A little bit of spell block too. But like I said, we're really wanting to pump our mana total up. Now, so it might never matter. People get a little bit confused about this. I'll probably talk about this again in the next video too, but it says 30% of damage is taken from mana before life. That doesn't mean you want 30% of your life pool to be mana, right? You actually want like over 40. Because the ratio is going to be 70-30, which is a lot closer to wanting like half of your life pool, right? It's not 30% of your life pool. It's not a 130 ratio, it's a 70-30 ratio. Now, unfortunately, this is probably a zone where I should have taken the time to learn the layouts because the Brine King's pretty annoying. And typically, the way I do it is I just pick one of the walls of the zone, and I follow it roughly in the opposite direction of the way I came in, right? There is kind of a weird L shape to this zone a lot of the time, which makes it hard to tell exactly which way you need to go. But sticking to a wall will generally get you somewhere in Path of Exile. We're going to follow that curve. I will say the golems here, they can do much more damage than you might expect if you're up close. They have like a AoE slam that if you come across a rare one with a Fizz Aura or something and you're not paying attention, it's very easy to get clobbered here. Like this guy, I bet this guy could do a lot of burst damage if he would live long enough. Even his melee hits are pretty decent, right? But if they use their skill on you, like a couple of them in a row, you might explode. Stop and get this essence while we're here. Yeah, see how there's a couple of them right there? It would be pretty easy to get burst down if you're not paying attention. I don't think it's... No, it is going to be up here. Yeah, just kind of a weird layout, but roughly, you know, just following a wall will get you there. But got the Brine King. He's got a very long intro. And as it turns out, Nessa is basically already dead. Well, sort of. Not dead, I guess, but like mind controlled. because she's actually connected. It's a little hard to tell, but he's got like this weird thing connected to the back of her head. And you can actually start fighting him right here. Nothing really unique about this boss fight, I would say. He's got a few invulnerable faces, which are pretty annoying. He's about to do one here where he's going to go invulnerable and he's going to make Nessa summon these storms, right? And the arena's going to shrink. There's not much to do here. You just kind of chill and wait. Watch the sides of the arena. You'll see them light up with attacks that will just go straight across the arena. So you don't want to be standing in front of those. And then you just want to watch the ground to see where else you do not be standing. So you've got ground things, but you also have this thing on the wall here. It's just going to shoot straight across. You'll usually get 1 or 2 of those per phase. Oh, I was close enough to take that swipe. In general, you can just kind of stay behind him. And he'll probably attack your totems most of the time. The lightning strikes and stuff don't do that much damage, provided you have been keeping up on your resists. And then the last phase, you have to fight him while the arena is still tiny. But we do just way too much damage, so rip that guy. He's not going to live very long in the last phase. And that is going to get us to Act 7. And our first major pantheon, which is one that I typically keep on for basically the whole game, because this prevents you from being chain stunned, basically. It says, you know, if you get stunned from a hit, you can't be stunned again for another couple seconds. So since we don't really have any way to get cannot be stunned easily, and we're not going to have tons of life because we're going to be using our mana as life, and that doesn't actually improve your stun threshold, it's really useful to run Soul of Brine King to make sure that you can't at least get like chain stunned. It makes your life a lot easier. Anyway, once you've allocated that, just go ahead and sail to the bridge encampment and Act 7, where we will grab a couple of quests. And these are the dudes that were in Act 3. So we've got Aramir and Yena and Helena still here. Now let's clean out our inventory real quick. Wow, that's a really nice helmet, actually. We should see if we could link that. Go ahead and... Got a 40 max life. Chaos res. No lightning resistance, but decent life strength, which is also life. And chaos resistance is pretty handy. That's not very good. Neither is that. I am going to vote, because this has cold and fire. And I am over on fire now, right? Yeah, I'm at 97, so I can afford to drop this fire res, because that would put me at 79, I think. We should try to 4-link this hat. Well, crap. I think jewelers are kind of expensive. We're not really using our alterations at this point though, so I might grab. Oh, okay, so we got the 4. We do have 4 whole jewelers too. I'm actually going to use my armor scraps on this just to give myself a little bit better chance of 4-linking this. Oh, okay. So now I just need the colors. And we did it. Easy. We're definitely going to swap this in then. We can go ahead and sell that guy. And we're still totally covered on our resists. Now, I don't know if I can equip this and be covered. I need a little bit more lightning res. Which I can't do here. We could put it here, though, by doing fire lightning res. Or we could just put it on here. I didn't put any suffix on here yet, so I think we'll do that. But it is worth the life in the chaos res, I would say. I don't really need this ring anymore. I would like some gloves still. Don't like these bases though. Our gloves are, our boots aren't amazing, so I might try to binding these soldier boots. We got 15 movement speed instead of 20. Unfortunately, there's no prefix open, so I couldn't even put a little bit of life on there. I do like the mana on it. But I don't like losing 5% movement speed, honestly. It does have an open suffix. I'll hold on to it while I think about it, I suppose. We still have another orb of binding, but I don't see a good enough base for that. And if we look at wands, there's no 3 links. We just changed our belt out, and we should put mana on this belt. We haven't really looked at our crafting options in a little bit. Now this is full up. This can take a prefix. We'll put tier 1 mana on that. I think this can have a prefix. We'll put tier 1 mana on this too. And that's going to take most of our augments. This can have lightning res, and we wanted to do that. And we'll put, yeah, just tier 1 lightning res on it then. So all of our resists are covered. We're actually a little bit positive in the chaos. We've got 1300 mana, 800 unreserved. So we still want a little bit more mana for Mind Over Matter to be comfortable. I probably would feel comfortable with more like 1200 by the time we get to the end of this act. So that's not going to be hard to do because we're still going to be able to get Deep Wisdom and Arcane Will and probably Deep Thoughts or Arcane Capacitor or something. So yeah, really, I feel like we're just about in gear that will easily take us through the rest of the campaign. I would probably like to have like slightly better wands, so that's probably what we're going to be looking out for. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the YouTube buttons like thumbs up and the like and subscribe and all that. It seems YouTube really enjoys that. And I'll catch you guys in the Act 7 video. Peace.